Hey everybody. I thought I would do another quick video in regards to the last video I just did because I've been getting a few questions about exactly how I do the things that I was describing in the last video. So I'm going to start really quickly with the area I mentioned regarding priming your board. So again, this is only for people who use boards, not canvas. So as I said, get some white paint, really water it down. It should be really wet, not thick paint, and just soak the top. Within about 20 minutes, it's going to dry. Take a sanding block or some sanding paper and just sand it all down, and you'll see that all the little hairs and bumps and divots will disappear. If you want to do it again, go for it. Do another layer of the white paint and sand that again, and you should be totally primed and ready for your painting. The next subject was the edges, and I was talking about resin and sanding. So what I meant by that was when you have an image that's already done and there's problems with it, pimples, pullaways, whatever the case may be. And I had mentioned to you sanding block or an orbital sander that I use, anything you want to choose. I had mentioned to be careful to not go crazy on the edges. And what I mean by that is if this is your piece that has the first coat of resin on it, don't put your sanding block on an edge and really dig into it this way. Keep your sanding horizontal as best as you can. Because in my experience, when you really dig down deep on an angle, especially with an orbital sander, you're removing so much resin and you're creating like a lip, almost like an edge. And for some reason, the scratching that the sanding does on that angle, even when you put polyacrylic or resin over it, it leaves almost like a cloudy finish. Like you can almost see the scratches still there. It just changes everything. I don't know why that is. I think it might be because the light hits the angle a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm no scientist. So what I meant by that was take your sanding block, sand down on a flat level, and if you really want to go horizontal, go very lightly on those sides. Once that is done, put another layer of epoxy resin. There was some confusion in the last video that people might have taken that as put a coat of polyacrylic on top. No. I only sand down to put another layer of resin on top. Now, once that resin is completely dry and the top of your piece looks wonderful, that's when you hit the edges. So hopefully your edges are already clean because you've used tuck tape that I mentioned before to keep your edges nice and clean. If that's the case and you took off your tape and you have sticky residue, again, grab your sander and sand all your edges down as best as you can. It should not affect the top of your painting. So do that either with a sanding block or an orbital sander. Once that is done, you're going to have edges that look like this. Nice, fresh, clean, whatever. They're going to be great. Now, if you're using a very coarse sandpaper to get that first edge sanding done, follow it up with a lighter grit sandpaper, just to make it a little bit more smooth so when the paint goes on, it doesn't look kind of funny. You want a really nice application of paint. So I suggest a lighter coarse sandpaper. So again, give it a once over sanding, and then you're going to have nice and clean edges. For me personally, I then, depending on the subject matter and the colors I've used, I paint the edges either white or black. Any colors that are light and spring and summer, I tend to stay with white, normally 2 coats. And for those colors that have lots of reds and grays and are darker in nature, I tend to stay with a black trim, like this one. So what you do, just grab some black paint. I tend to use black paint from Home Depot that people have mistinted. So that's a great deal. You get a whole gallon of paint for $3. And then I write on the gallon, edges only. I won't paint with it. I'll just use for my edges. Same with the white. If you have some people that have gone and tried to tint some white paint and it's just the wrong color of white and it's cheap, grab that and use that as your edges only. So as you can see with this one, I gave 2 coats of black paint to my edges. Pretty nice. I don't use tape, just freehand it with a brush. And once that is done, that's when you take your polyacrylic from Minwax, and whether it's gloss, satin, semi-gloss, it's up to you, the finish that you want to use. And I put one coat, one nice, clean, even coat of polyacrylic all across the piece, and that's that. Hope this was able to answer a few of your questions. If you have any more, though, please feel free to hit me up. Have a good afternoon, everybody.